You know, it's very interesting, isn't it, how the modern-day media work, whether it's radio, cable, whatever it is. There's going to be a meeting, obviously, tomorrow, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time in Alaska, near Anchorage, between Putin and President Trump. And so there's a lot of speculation about what will happen. The president has made abundantly clear what his intentions are. And so there are people out there who think I should spend all day talking to you, I guess, for the next 3 hours, Mr. Producer, about my assumptions about what's going to take place. Now, this is typical kind of news thinking these days. I have nothing new to tell you. I don't know what's going to happen in that meeting. Nobody knows what's going to happen in that meeting. We know the president has had his wits' end with Putin. He's also made it clear he just wants a peace deal, and he wants it now, and they can figure out the particulars later. We know from the White House that they're likely, if things go okay, to have a meal afterwards, and then after that, a press event. So the real news day is when, Mr. Producer? Tomorrow. When we actually know what's going on. Not today, tomorrow. But I thought in preparation for tomorrow, by the way, we have a big hour too, very big, at the bottom of the next hour. You know, yesterday was sort of governor's show on the program. We had 3 governors who wanted to come on the program, more than happy. They were news breaking. Governor of Alaska, Governor of Texas, Governor of Florida. I was also contacted by the Prime Minister of Israel. He wanted to address some issues, so we spoke to him earlier this morning because there's a 7-hour difference. And we spoke to him at 9 this morning, which would be 4 p.m. his time, as he's moving in between meetings, security meetings and so forth. Some very, very interesting things that he said. I would argue news-making things that he said, but who knows if the news picks it up or not. But we'll discuss that and play that next hour. That's news. But I want to lay the foundation a little bit here. How much do you know about Vladimir Putin? How much do you know about him? Isn't it amazing? We're told today that we need to spend time talking about this. Has anybody talked to you about who he is? How he came to power? What he used to do? That he's the richest man in the world? Has anybody discussed that with you? Well, I will, so you know what you're dealing with. Putin's been in power since 2000. That's 25 years. 25 years. He's 72 years old. So he's been in power since he was a young man. Do you know that's longer than any Kremlin leader? Any? Since Joseph Stalin, Mr. Producer? Longer than Brezhnev and all the rest? So you learned something just now I bet you haven't heard all day. Putin has been in power since 2000, longer than any Kremlin leader since Stalin. He's now in his 5th term. There's no effective opposition anymore. Why? Because he killed them all. He killed the journalists who were real journalists. He killed the oligarchs that raised questions or wouldn't give him his money, quote unquote. Political opponents, he killed them too. He has killed scores and scores of people, had them assassinated. Apparently the favorite is the swan dive out of the 29th floor of some building. But they've been shot in the back of the head, and they've claimed that that was suicide. Shot in the back of the head, and the family shot, or they've used a certain kind of poison that only the Russian government itself has access to. And they have killed people outside of Russia, inside Russia. Navalny they killed, who was one of the great opponents. First they tried to poison him in Germany. He came back to life. Then they put him in prison First for 9 years, and then he extended it another 10 years, and he died in prison, of course. He's a killer. Now, early on, he seemed to embrace the so-called liberal democratic Russia. The liberal democratic Russia under Yeltsin. Remember Boris Yeltsin? Boris Yeltsin. Who was a true Democrat, small d Democrat. But he was a drunk, as many are in the leadership in Russia. He was a drunk, and members of his inner circle had committed all kinds of financial crimes and so forth. So there he is, Putin. He's in the inner circle, worked his way up very quickly, from St. Petersburg to Moscow, moved up the chain, positioned himself. He'd been a KGB agent, secret agent, rose to the level of lieutenant colonel up until 1990, 1991, and so the Soviet Union collapsed. That's when he began his political career, really in 1996, St. Petersburg and then in Moscow. He was viewed as an earnest, loyal, honest individual, relatively quiet. He got to know people. They got to know him. He became one of the deputy prime ministers. They had several. Oh, a handful. And then word has it, Yeltsin was ill and he was blackmailed. That's right. He was basically told, hey, look, Boris, all these issues will go away and you won't be charged with anything. Just hand power over to me, Putin. And he did. Some 25 years ago. This is how he came to power. But he was anything but a small d Democrat, as it turns out. Now, Putin is probably the richest man in the world. Elon Musk was asked about him several years ago. They said, you know, you're the richest man in the world, Elon Musk. And you know what he said? And I quote, I do think that Putin is significantly richer than me. And when asked to elaborate, he refused. He got tight-lipped, and he never said it again. So Putin is viewed as, if not the richest, but one of the richest men in the world. Why? 70% of the Russian economy is controlled by the Kremlin. 70%. He gets a cut of all of it. All of it. He insists he earns just $140,000 a year as president. That he lives modestly in an apartment in central Moscow, and he has few other assets. But he's a liar. He owns a fleet of luxury cars, dozens of private jets, palatial mega yachts, including one that's valued at $900 million, Mr. Producer, like yours. He's got extraordinary designer wardrobe. He's got millions of dollars worth of rare and high-end watches. Experts claim his real estate holdings, as reported by News.com Australia, are in the billions, including a castle-like mansion on the outskirts of Moscow that's twice the size of Buckingham Palace. Various holding companies and associates are used to launder and mask his ownership of high-priced areas across the globe, including in the south of France and even New York City. I think he's even richer than Qatar. But his pride and joy, and you can see this online if you Google it, his pride and joy is a sprawling billion-dollar, actually $2.08 billion, over $2 billion estate. Can you imagine that, Mr. Producer? Overlooking the Black Sea. Boasting over a dozen bedrooms, actually dozens of bedrooms, a private nightclub in the house, in the estate, in the castle, a casino. Think of all the personnel. an underground ice hockey rink, a movie theater, a wine vineyard. It's an enormous property sitting on hundreds and hundreds of acres of manicured gardens, has been dubbed Putin's Palace by critics. Again, the worth is said to be over $2 billion. Putin denies it's his, but it's his. The American-British financier Bill Browder, co-founder of the investment firm Hermitage Capital, once invested heavily in Russia. Then he became a fierce critic of Putin. In an interview several years ago, he claimed the president's wealth is worth multiples of what he's claimed, multiples. He said the wealth came as a result of extortion and massive theft from state funds. At the time, this is 2018, he estimated Putin's net worth, real worth, at $200 billion American dollars, so it's at least double that now. Putin being, it's argued, as the richest man in the world. Not even close.